Now, if you love candles, and who doesn't, then I'm sure you've heard of our next guest. Nicole Eckels is one of our most successful entrepreneurs. As the founder and chief executive of the Sapphire Group, her brand, Glasshouse Fragrances, has dominated the luxury candle market for decades. These days, she splits her time between the US and Australia, and Glasshouse is a global brand. Nicole, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Tell us how you got a nose for scents.
I think that you, like any talent, I suppose, you are born with a certain desire and a certain thing that really connects to you. And for me, it was fragrance. I have a very strong olfactive memory. It's better than remembering people's names for sure. And it's just always been part of what I love.
Oh, that's interesting. So you grew up in northeastern United States.
Yes.
You worked at Saks Fifth Avenue. A lot of Australians aspire to go and break it into New York and the United States. You moved to Sydney. Why?
Well, I was already in New York.
Right.
And I was raising my 12-year, well, he's 12 at the time, son on my own. And New York is a tough place to raise a child.
Right.
And so I decided I was going to move. And I kind of opened the world and said, where am I going to go?
No.
And I chose Australia.
What a massive decision and a huge step for you. Yeah. Wow. How did you come up with the idea for Glasshouse?
I was here working for a wonderful company, and I went to the store to buy a product. And I walked into David Jones, and I wanted to just get beautiful bath and body products, and I couldn't find anything. Yeah. So it was in that moment that I decided I'm going to start my own bath and body brand and my own fragrance brand. And I thought, what product should I do first? Well, I couldn't find any candles at all. So I said, oh, I'll do a candle first because that I can't find at all. And so unbeknownst to myself, we created the scented candle market in that moment when we decided to be the first.
How difficult was it to start with?
Oh, it was incredibly difficult because I had no idea how to make any of these products. I knew as a consumer what I loved. I knew the attributes.
Right.
I knew how I wanted something to smell. I had a clear vision, but because I didn't know how to do any of that, and I needed money.
Yeah.
And so I started with a business plan, and that led to funding with my business partner, who's still in the business today, and that I am so grateful for.
Take me back to those early days. When you look back, what were the most critical steps in those early days?
Well, first of all, the plan was ridiculous. I mean, what I wrote down was just, everything was wrong. Just throw it in the bin. It was just all bad. But I think the critical steps were the things I had to do candles at all. So we're both a brand and a manufacturer, and they're very different things when you think about how you run a business. Yeah. And so that was tough because the learning curve was just, ridiculous on all accounts. Making the product, being the manufacturer of the product, the experts in the category, they weren't here in Australia.
So where did you go for all of that? Because it's not only business, it's the science involved in manufacturing and the fragrances, and it's a complicated product.
It's very complicated, and candle making in particular is, they say it's not rocket science, but it's candle science, and no one wants to share because it's so difficult.
What makes Glasshouse different?
It's the product, but everyone can say, well, what about it? When we make anything, we are hunting for the convergence of something that makes you feel something. Fragrances that are different and products that can perform. And when we find that sweet spot of all three things, we know we're onto something. And we live in service of our customers.
Yeah.
What we have to do is look after our customers and make products that they love, that inspire them, that keep them loyal, because that's what I want from the brands that I have an emotional connection to.
Yeah. What was the biggest leap of faith you had to make in the business or with the product?
It was the most recent one, which was when we expanded in the US. So it was 2020. I went home to visit my family. When I say home, visit my family in New York. The flight kept getting canceled. Yeah. So I arrived just with the purpose of going for Christmas, coming back. Got a call, your flight's canceled. Canceled. So I'm stuck. And I thought, well, I might as well start on expanding into the US and put together a little bit of a plan.
You're kidding me. You're locked out of Australia.
Yeah.
You can't get back. So you think, okay, let's look at it as an export
Well,
market. So it was always in the back of your mind.
It was always in the plan.
Yeah.
But then I actually had to do it. You know, and doing it as opposed to thinking about it, especially when you get to our size, and especially with the millions that it costs to expand, because we're privately owned. And it's all coming out of our pockets, and we're going, okay, it's time. And I just thought, what if I'm deluding myself? And I thought, what if we get this wrong?
Yeah.
And thank God we haven't, because it's been incredibly successful.
What's been the secret to break into the States?
I think that we just are fresh. We have perspective and a way of doing things that isn't done there. Australian design, it's leading. It really is. And when you look at our product and what we do here, while I'm American, this is an Australian company.
Yeah.
And we brought that aesthetic, we brought that passion, the way we think about things to the US. And a lot of the brands there, they just don't have it anymore.
Best bit of advice for someone starting out on the journey?
I always think that resilience and determination are critical components of any entrepreneurial journey. And for me, I had this phrase about being in, over, around, and through. Be like water. Just every challenge that comes, find a solution, work around it. There's always a workaround.
Yep.
Sometimes it means gutting your strategy, but that's what I will always say to people starting out.
Nicole Eckels, thanks very much for joining us.